Welcome to the ITRW 211 tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be covering assignment 3 for ASP.NET, where you're supposed to create a website for the airline company. So I'm just going to start by creating the website, but in this time the difference is that I'm going to be using cookie collections instead of a cookie object. So if you go ahead and create a new website for me by following these steps. So here you just have to select the ASP.NET empty website, and please make sure that you browse the file system to where you want to store your website. So I'm just gonna store it at the desktop, and I'm just gonna name it, I'm just gonna store it at that folder. So waiting for it to open up. So guys, if you notice, for this tutorial I just chose to use Visual Studio 2015. Reason being is that you guys use that to write your test and all that. So I'm just gonna use this one so that you may just get customized to the environment when you get to a test or an exam. So I'm just gonna proceed by naming it airline. But please note, in tests or exams, you have to follow the instructions given in the question paper. So if the question paper prompts you to name it with your student number, your initials, you have to follow that order. You can't really change it. So going ahead, I'm just gonna start by adding a new item. If you notice, I have to add a new page to our website. You can just quickly go to web form, but in some computers you might find that this option is not there. So just go directly to add new item. So here I want to add web page, web form. Like I'm just gonna name it page 1 since it's gonna be my page. But in exams or anything, you'll be told as to what you should use. I can either select to use it as my master page, which I'm not gonna do. So I'm just gonna add it now. As you can see, I'm just presented with the interface for designing the form. So what's gonna happen is that I could either use the split view, which shows me the source code and the design on the bottom part, or I could just design it manually by using the source. But for time's sake, I'm just gonna use the design where I just drag and drop elements into my form. And if you note, for this I'm just gonna use one div. So I'm just gonna span it out and just start dragging items to that. In case you just tuned in now and watching the tutorial from here, I'm just gonna use assignment 3 for ASP.NET. So if you go on Fundi, you would find it. So the first elements I need would be a label and I'm just gonna click format there, set its position to absolute, then I can drag it wherever I want in the form. Okay, that is a mistake. Just gonna place it here, copy the label and paste it again. Okay, that doesn't work. I'm just gonna click a new label, format it, set position to be absolute. So guys, please follow these steps. I'm not gonna say anything to save time. I'm just gonna design the GUI quickly. And I'm gonna need a button. And another label there. Label, there we are. Another label. drop down list. And the button there. One more label. So your GUI doesn't really need to be, you don't really need to organize the elements in a certain order, as long as every element is there and very usable. Your lecturer is not so specific on that. So there's the hyperlink, and we need two validators. The first one being the required field validator. So you just go to the validation group, take a validation, drag and drop it into your form, format it to be absolute, then align it with the element that it's going to validate. In this case, this text box here, and regex, the regular expression validator. Set it to align with that text box. And now the most important thing, I'm just gonna start naming the elements of my form. And you know guys, we have a conventional way of naming all your elements. So there, I'm just gonna use the conventional naming way. So this is the text box. Matter of fact, let me just start with the labels so that I know which text box belongs to where. So the conventional one, you'd start with LBL. So this would be the passenger name. Just gonna name it pass name because it's much more descriptive. And if I go to its text, I'm just gonna type passenger name, and also its text box. To work much more quicker, you can pin this down so that when you click on every form element, website element, it's just gonna stay there. Your properties are gonna stay there. So for text boxes, you'd have txt pass name. The required field validator, it's the only one on the form, so it's easier to tell it apart from the others. And its value is passenger name. Its error message is passenger name is required, and the fore color has to be in red. Just gonna make it bold first. Fore color has to be red, and I'm gonna do the same for this row as well. It has to be LBL telephone, so that is descriptive enough. So it's gonna be telephone number, okay? And I'm gonna name this text box txt_tel. The required field validator, I'm just gonna change the error message for the valid format of the telephone. Say for instance 07855123445. Set its fore color to red, and also change the font to be bold. There we have it. Then we're dealing with button submit. So for buttons, we have btn submit, and the text on it would be submit. So that's okay for the button. This is the text box that is just gonna display the values that you type into this text box and this one. So we would call it LBL display. Okay, you can leave the text property of it as being empty, and let's set its fore color to red as well. Let me resize these text boxes as I do so well. And then here would be the label. for choosing destination. So I'm just gonna name it label destination, and the text on it would be choose your destination. Okay, and the drop down list, you add items by clicking this arrow here and edit items, and you click on the add button. The first value, I'm just gonna leave it as being null, so that when the website loads, the user is presented an opportunity to select their own choice, rather than just having the first element in the list as the default choice. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add the second one. And the data for this is given in the question paper. The first value I believe would be Durban. Okay, so a drop down list item takes two values. It first takes in the text and the value. So for the value, I'm just gonna set the distance. So I'm gonna give it a value of 480 as given in the question paper. Add the second item. Second one is Cape Town, and the distance value is 1200. And then the third value would be Port Elizabeth. The value would be 950 kilometers. At Polokwane, the distance to Polokwane from Jozi would be 380. The third one would be Bloemfontein. The distance would be at 320. And I just click OK, and I would have my data items there. Just drag the drop down list so that it shows everything you need. Just gonna drag it from this side and reposition it. Okay, now this would be button find info. This is the button that we're just gonna click for reloading the page whenever you add your items into the cookie collection. And of course guys, you can still use the value changed index of the drop down list to reload the to reload the page whenever it does it. But for this question, we're asked to use the button. So button property would be find info, and the conventional way would be to name it btn find info, unless your question paper states that you should name it a certain way. So this would be the label that would show after you select a certain value. So it would be LBL response. So you can leave its text as being empty, and then the hyperlink would be the one that redirects you to a different page. Since all there's one hyperlink in this page, it's not so hard to tell them apart. So I'm just gonna name it view info. Notice that I only added one page to our website, so I'm just gonna leave it as it is and start adding code. The first requirement would be to validate input and display a message on this label here showing the destination. Display a message here showing the passenger's name and informing them that they should proceed by selecting a destination. Very important guys is that you should change the control to validate property of your required field validators and your regex validators. So it starts with the required field validator, and you have to go there to control to validate property. Click on that drop down there, click the element that you need to be validated. In this instance it would be passenger name, so I'm just going to select txt pass name, which is this text box here. Oh no, undo that, sorry guys, which would be this text box here. And then the next one would be the regular expression validator. I'm just gonna scroll down. Control to validate property would be to txt tell. Okay, and then the validation expression, just click there and add your own validation expressions, and so you just need it to validate 10 numbers. So the simplest one you could use is /d for 10 characters or numbers, because D is meant for numbers, so it would be for 10 sequential integers. So I just click OK on that one, and then we start adding codes. And so, matter of fact, before we start adding any code, there's two more things you need to take care of: the errors that you normally get. So you just test it with the browser of your choice. Right now I'm just gonna take Microsoft Edge because it's the least used one by my system, so there's not a lot of data in it. Just gonna click that, and it starts debugging. It loads my web page. So wait for it. So here's the error that you normally get. It tells you about this validation mode. So what you do when you see this error is, first, matter of fact, you can't use your browser in a test or in an exam, so you have to memorize the code that I'm gonna add to our web.config file. So go back to your project. Okay, stop it from debugging, then go to the Solution Explorer, click on the web.config file, and just add the following code. Since I typed it already, I'm just gonna copy it and paste it there. Okay, so this just tells your local server to enable this validation mode by setting its value to none. Okay, so we're just gonna run it again and take care of the second error. Okay, so this one is because it didn't select your default start page when you started the project. But however, you can still take this away by taking the master page checkbox when the project started. So this would automatically take away this error message. So you fix this by going back to your project, again Solution Explorer, right click on page 1 and set it as your start page, and just try it one more time. It should work now. There we have it, and I tested it earlier, so I'm just gonna click on here, historical data, but you can still select your own. The phone number as I suggested. Okay, it says the valid format is that. Okay, this only means that we have a problem with our required field validator. I mean the regex validator, meaning the validation expression that we wrote isn't correct or doesn't detect these numbers. So if you click submit, you can't do anything because you have to take care of this first. So we're just gonna go back to our project, check the code under our regex validator. So it's set to control 10 digits. So guys, I just need to change that to a backslash and test the program again, I mean the website. So I'm just gonna select my name, and there we have it. It works. So far so good. We go back and then we start adding code to our website. Under the button submit, remember that we're supposed to display the passenger's name and tell them to proceed by selecting a destination of their choice from the drop down list. I'm just gonna double click them and define two variables, string name equals to txt pass name dot text, and then string tell equals to txt tell dot text, and then I'm just gonna display lbl display dot text equals to, first greet the passenger with their name, tell them they selected, oh You don't have to tell them they selected anything. Hello whoever, proceed by selecting your destination. So that would be all the code that we're typing. I suggest that you test every line of code that you write. So after this line of code, I'm just gonna key in values there. There it greets me with the name that I typed in there. Okay, so going back, I'm just gonna take care of the destination. So we go back to our first page. The destination, remember, is going to be controlled by this button here. So we double click on it. First we have to check if the selected index is not null. So we do that by using the select statement. Now since that we know that it's our only drop down list, so we can't really mistake it for another one. Selected item is not equals to null. You have to do this. First define a string destination, right? Or we can just define it and assign it a value here. It would be drop down list dot selected item dot text, which would be the name of the place that the passenger is going, and then another string value. This would be the distance, still using the drop down list. Selected item dot value. Now we have to make our HTTP cookie. We're gonna name it cookie as usual, and we're gonna use the second constructor of the HTTP cookie class. So it takes in a string name and a string value. So the first one would be destination comma distance, and then we add our cookie to the response. No, not you. Response.cookies.add. We're gonna add our cookie there, and then we're gonna give it an expiration date. We're gonna add 30 days, the default one. Okay, and then after we've done so, we want the web page to reload, right? Response dot redirect. It has to redirect to the same page, so you're just gonna type the string. It has to be string value, guys, else it won't redirect. So I named it page1.aspx, right? And after selecting an item, it will just redirect you here. But first we need to tell the label response that you've selected a certain destination. So the value there would be lbl response dot text equals to you selected and the destination name as your destination. There. Now we can test it again. Okay, if you notice there, it can't do that since okay, it can't really redirect to this page. I must have misspelled it. Let's go back there, comment out this code for now. There we have it. You selected so and so as your destination. Okay, so it's the only part of the if, but we select Durban, and it's supposed to tell us that I selected Durban as my destination, and after that I can redirect to a different page using this hyperlink, which is not given a value as to where it should redirect to. We're just gonna do that now. Having done this, we can access the data from a different web page. So we're gonna go back to our Solution Explorer, to our airline website, add a new item, as always a web form, and we name it page 2. Okay, there we have it. On this one, it's gonna be a very simple GUI like the first one. I'm just gonna expand this part, toolbox. I'm just gonna give it 3 elements: a label, a list box, and a hyperlink. Start by a label, change its property and type information. Okay, it's the only label on this form, so I don't really need to name it. And a list box, set its position to absolute, place it there, and expand its size so that it can display so many values at once. And then we need one more element, being a hyperlink. Format by setting its position to absolute. Change its properties, so it would be next passenger. Okay, we don't need an ID for it since all it takes us, it's the only one on this page. So navigate URL, just click on that and select web page 1. Okay, and also on this one, remember the property. Let's change the property of this hyperlink there, since we edit the second page now. So the navigate property would be page 2. Okay, and I'm just gonna copy this code here, go to page 1, uncomment this section, and paste it there. I was just missing the /. Take this part out and reload the same page. It has to be in comment, guys. Okay, and run my application once more. Okay, it's supposed to show us as to which page we're clicking, so we're not gonna make it reload this page. Let's just take the code out for reloading. Or rather, we can just choose to have, oh no, but let's just take it out completely. Okay, I selected Cape Town. When I click view info, it redirects me here, but since I haven't put in any code on this web page, I can't really see anything on this list box. So I'm gonna go back to the previous code, close the browser, and go to web page 2. Okay, now I wanna go to the code file. So when the page loads instantly, it's supposed to request cookies. So like I said, in this case we're gonna be using a HTTP cookie collection. Name it cookies equals to response dot it has to be request dot cookies. So it'll just go get any cookies stored in our browser and retrieve them to this web page. So first we want to have two variables, which would be string desti. Matter of fact, we'll do this in the for loop. So first we have to check if we have any cookies. Dot count is greater than 0. It has to execute this code here. So we just need, since all it stores a cookie collection in an array, so we'll just use a for loop for sequentially accessing the cookies in our array. So I'm just going to define the variables here. And another string. Matter of fact, let me have this one as a double distance, and here we just reuse the variables we just named there. It would be cookies at position I dot name. Remember, it's a string value, so it would be returned as that. So here we would have our distance as being cookies at position I dot value, dot value, but it's a double, so we need to convert this There we have it now. Remember that it has to also calculate the price by adding 2 rands, by adding 2 rands for every kilometer. So if the distance from Johannesburg to Cape Town, for instance, was 1 kilometer, the price for traveling would be 2 rands. So we're just going to declare another variable there. It is a double price, and we've calculated inside the for loop there is price being distance multiplied by 2. Okay, and then we go to our list box, one.add.items.add, and first, so it's supposed to first display the destination, which would be destination plus text that tells us how far the kilometers being the distance, so this would just display destination. Say we selected Cape Town, you'd say Cape Town. Say we selected Cape Town, and Cape Town is 100 kilometers from Johannesburg. It would be Cape Town is 100 kilometers from Johannesburg, ticket price, and then we just add the ticket price value. But remember guys, we have to format it into a currency, so we'd have the format string as being that, and then what we want to format is the price. Okay, and there we have it. Start testing our website to see if it works. Just gonna type in new values now, since, well, this is the final test. Okay, Durban as our destination. It tells me I selected Durban as my destination. Now I start viewing info. If you notice, distance from Durban to Johannesburg is 480. We're missing one more thing there. It's supposed to be kilometers, and the ticket price, as you can see, it's basically multiplying the distance by 2, since all for every kilometer we have to pay 2 rands. So next passenger. Okay, I'm just gonna fix that one minor mistake. Destination is distance. We need a kilometers there. Okay, if you run this, you're gonna get correct output. Thank you for watching this tutorial, guys. I hope you do very well in your test, and sorry again for posting this so late. This is me signing out.